In the Holler, an object is never just an object. We don't see a tool as just a piece of hardware, and we don't see a household item as just something bought from a store. To us, the things we use every day are like sponges. They soak up the life around them. They remember the heat of the fire, the weight of the hand that held them, and the prayers whispered in the rooms where they sit. There is a memory in the metal and a spirit in the stitch. Welcome back to Legends from the Holler. Tonight we are talking about the three sentinels of the Appalachian home: the skillet that feeds the living, the horseshoe that guards the door, and the crown that finds the dying. These are the things that define a life in these mountains, from the first meal to the final breath. If you walk into any kitchen in these hills, the first thing you are likely to see is a cast iron skillet. It's probably sitting on the back of the stove, dark and heavy and unassuming. But that pan is the most honest thing in the house. You see, a cast iron skillet isn't made in a day. It's earned over decades. Old folks will tell you that you never truly own a skillet. You just look after it for the next person. When a grandmother passes her pan down to her granddaughter, she isn't just giving her a piece of cookware. She is giving her every meal she ever cooked, every conversation had over the stove, and every bit of grease and salt that seasoned that metal through the years. We say that a skillet remembers. It remembers the Sunday morning bacon from 40 years ago. It remembers the cornbread made during the Great Depression when there wasn't much else to eat. It remembers the steady, rhythmic scrape of the spatula, and because it remembers, it has a soul. That is why you never, under any circumstance, wash a seasoned skillet with soap. You don't want to wash away the memory. You don't want to strip the metal back to a cold, dead state. You want that history to stay right there, baked into the surface, feeding the next generation with the flavor of the past. There is a respect for iron in the mountains that goes deeper than just its usefulness. Iron is a stubborn metal. It takes the heat without breaking. It holds its ground. And in the Holler, iron is the great protector. Which brings us from the hearth to the doorway. You've seen them nailed above the lintel of an old farmhouse. A horseshoe, rusted and worn, hanging right where everyone has to pass under it. Now, a stranger might think it's just for luck. A little charm to bring a good harvest or a few extra coins in the pocket. But to a mountain family, that horseshoe is a sentry. It is a piece of iron forged in fire and hammered by a blacksmith, and there is an old power in that. The rule is simple but absolute. The horseshoe must be hung with the ends pointing up, like a cup. If you hang it with the ends pointing down, you are a fool, because you are letting all the luck and the protection spill out onto the ground. You want that shoe to catch the blessings and hold them right there over the entrance to your home. But it wasn't just about luck. Iron was believed to keep out the things that didn't belong. The haints, the shadows, the travelers from the woods who didn't have names. They say the devil himself can't stand the sight of a horseshoe because of the way it's forged. There is an old story about a blacksmith who was asked to shoe the devil's hooves, and he did it so painfully that the devil promised never to enter a house where a horseshoe was displayed. So when you walk under that shoe, you are walking into a sanctuary. You are crossing a line that has been drawn in iron. It says that whatever is outside, the wind, the dark, the spirits of the trees, it stays outside. Inside, there is the fire and the skillet and the family. But even with the best seasoned pan and the luckiest horseshoe, time eventually catches up to us all. And that is when we move from the kitchen and the porch into the quietest room of the house. That is where we find the legend of the death crown. This is a story that isn't told much anymore. Mostly because we don't use feather pillows the way we used to. But back when every pillow was stuffed with the down of geese or chickens raised right on the farm, the death crown was a common sight, and a terrifying one. The old folks believed that when a person was lingering on their deathbed, laboring for their final breaths, the feathers inside their pillow would begin to move. They would weave themselves together, turning and twisting in the dark of the casing, driven by some force no one could explain. They would form a perfect matted ring, a crown of feathers, so tight and so intricate that no human hand could have made it. If a person died and a crown was found in their pillow, it was taken as a sign that the soul had been accepted, a sign that they had passed through the narrow gate and found peace. It was a beautiful thing in a way, but it was also a heavy burden for the living. Because if you found a crown, you knew for certain that the person was gone and there was no bringing them back. My great-aunt used to tell of a man in the next holler over who was a hard man, a man who didn't have much use for the church or his neighbors. When he was dying, his family watched that pillow like hawks. They wanted to know if he'd be forgiven. When he finally passed, they cut that pillow open with trembling hands. And there it was, a crown of white feathers as perfect as any jewel, sitting right where his head had rested for 20 years. The crown was usually taken out and kept in a box, a holy relic of a life ended. They say you should never break a death crown. If you pull the feathers apart, you are disturbing the peace of the one who left it behind. You let it stay whole, just like the life it represented. It seems strange to some, I suppose, to find so much meaning in a pan, a shoe, and a pillow. But you have to understand the isolation of these mountains. When the nearest neighbor is a mile away and the woods are pressing in from every side, you find your comfort where you can. You find your security in the objects that have stood the test of time. The skillet is your history. It's the hands of your mother and her mother before her, still feeding you long after they are in the ground. The horseshoe is your boundary. It's the iron will that keeps the world at bay and keeps your family safe within the walls you built. And the death crown is your hope. It's the promise that even in the end, when the breath leaves the body and the fire in the stove goes cold, there is something waiting on the other side. Something that recognizes the struggle and offers a sign of peace. We live in a world now where things are made to be thrown away. We buy plastic pans that stick, and we hang decorations made in factories, and we sleep on foam that has no memory of anything. We are losing our connection to the objects that hold our stories. But if you go deep enough into the holler, you can still find them. You can still feel the weight of a skillet that has cooked 1,000 meals. You can still see the rust on a horseshoe that has guarded a door for a century. And if you listen close to the stories of the old ones, you might still hear about the pillows that hold the secrets of the dying. These aren't just superstitions, they are the anchors of our culture. They are the things that keep us from drifting away in the fog. They remind us that we come from somewhere, that we belong to someone, and that the things we touch every day are carrying our legacy long after we are gone. Thank you for watching Legends from the Holler. Consider subscribing if you are enjoying our content. Tell me in the comments if you have items you use every day that have been passed down. I love to find out about you and read your comments. Next time you hold an old tool or pass under a doorway or lay your head down at night, take a moment to think about what you are leaving behind. Think about the memory you are pressing into the world, because the holler is watching, and the objects you leave behind, they will remember you.